All right, what's up, guys? So if you're a founder or a sales leader, or you have a sales organization that you are somehow responsible for, I'm going to show you the easiest way to go find money that is already in your system. Now, I work with a lot of organizations that are constantly trying to pump new leads into the system, but at the end of the day, we have to know how to properly audit our CRM or our system so that we can understand if what we're doing on the front end even makes sense on the back end. Now, usually when we go in and audit, we find a lot of things that can be fixed today to produce more revenue. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what a simple audit process would look like, the first few things I would check, and how to ultimately pull $100,000 out of your CRM by tomorrow. So let's jump in here. Now, we're really going to look at deals in the graveyard, misleads, inbox nightmares, I'll explain what that is, and then workflow performance. And these four areas, as long as you know how to properly audit them, can be absolute game changers for businesses. It can be huge needle movers. So when we come in here, we're using Close.com in this specific example. You can do the same thing inside of HubSpot. But when we come in here for deals in the graveyard, the first thing that I love to look at is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to sort for any strategy sessions completed that exist, okay? And then I'm going to mark outcome is any of follow-up or long-term follow-up, okay? So these are deals that we have had a conversation with, right? There was a call completed, and they are sitting in follow-up or long-term follow-up. Next, I'm going to add a filter about communication. So I'm just going to say that the latest communication date is not within the last 30 days, okay? And when I do this in a client's account, sometimes I just did one literally earlier today. There's 437 deals sitting inside of there. And we'll actually go ahead and do it real quick. So if we come into an account, leads, we're going to hit the filter. We're going to say custom activities, call completed, exist, where outcome is any of follow-up and long-term follow-up, just like that. And then we say basically add filter, communication, and latest communication date is not within the last 30 days. Boom. So 437 deals. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my demo account over here. And the importance of that, okay, is that there's 437 deals that we already spoke with. We had a full sales conversation with, and no one has touched that lead since. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is how can we re-engage those leads? How can we get back on the calendar? That list alone, 437 leads, if we close just 5% of those, it's roughly like $200,000 if you have an average deal value of about 10K, right? So huge needle mover. And I promise if you have any volume of leads inside of your CRM, you're going to be blown away by how many follow-ups are just sitting there. Now, the goal is to reduce that to as few as possible, zero, really. So that means we either need to mark these deals as lost because they are true lost opportunities, or we need to unassign them and give them to someone else, okay? Now, the second is missed leads. And this one is a silent killer for so many businesses that we look at. So when we come in here, what I want to do is lead date created is within the last 7 days. Okay. So we're going to say lead created, and let's actually go back to our other account here. So we're going to say leads where date created is within the last, let's just say 7 days, okay? And there's two ways to do this. You can either add a column over here where the communication, so you're going to scroll through here and find communication, latest communication date, and check that, okay? So this is one way to do it for a visual overview. And you can see, okay, great. All of these leads have had communication. Here's one, though, that has not had communication. So the question we're asking ourselves, why have we not communicated with that lead, right? Now, alternatively, you can add a filter here and do very similar. So date of communication where total number of communications is less than 1, okay? So now I can see in the last 7 days, we had 120 leads come in. And out of those, we have not communicated with 58 of them, okay? So the question would be, why in the world are we not communicating with 50% of our leads that are actually coming into the CRM? And for your brand, that may or may not make sense. Again, this is an audit, so we need to ask these questions, but we have to be able to understand this. So if we know that all leads coming in the CRM should have a touch point, then this would be a red, like waving around the red flag. This is like just the worst thing ever. Now, there are situations where you may have leads coming in, and all we have to do is add a couple extra filters. So, you can add a filter for, lead source and say, hey, I don't want to include these types of leads, okay? So that one is really, really important to make sure that there's never a lead slipping through the cracks. And new leads being created and coming into the system have some type of communication. Now, the second one I usually create for that is, hey, give me any leads that have less than 2. So you can increase that number, less than 2 communications, less than 3. Any leads that have an inbound communication. So this is another one. So communication, find last communication where direction is any of incoming, right? So now we can see there's 2,200 leads that have not received a response. Now, I can also say that the date of the communication, so let's actually delete this off of here. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to say communication. I'm going to say find latest communication where date is not within the last 7 days and direction is any of incoming. Okay, so there's 2,000 leads in here that have a message that has not been responded to, essentially, right? Some type of communication that has not been responded to. And you can do the same thing. You can add type here. So you could say is a SMS, for example, received SMS. So we have 742 leads where we received an SMS and have not responded to. Now, to quickly overview this in Close, we can actually go over here. We can sort down by latest communication right here, and we can apply this. Now we can actually see what that communication was, right? So we can drag this over and we can see, got it, okay, thanks. So obviously some of these are not going to matter, but we want to go in here and find out why we have not responded to these, okay? So that's another big one there. Inbox nightmares. So this is basically making sure that everyone's, all the sales reps' inboxes are as clean as possible. So all we need to do in Close specifically is come over here and then sort by the rep, right? So 14, amazing, super clean inbox. We can come over here, 69, and we can start comparing our sales team members, 836. Okay, so there's something that this rep is doing different than everyone else. And the question would be, why in the world do we have 836 anything in our inbox? So we got 245 tasks, we got 139 messages, we got 70 calls, and 357 emails. Okay, now I bet if we were to follow up with this rep, they are missing deals. They are missing opportunities because their inbox is such a mess. So all we have to do is start scrolling through here and find a couple examples where they should have responded in a much more timely manner, or they let a deal or lead slip through the crack, and point it out to them, communicate that to them, help them understand that their messy inbox is causing them to lose deals and ultimately costing the business a ton of money. Lastly is workflow performance. Now, when we come in here, this is usually a huge needle mover for companies that are workflow heavy. So if we just come into any active workflow, so let's go into this one right here. And actually, let me see if I can find an account that has a higher level. Yeah, this is a good example here. So let's come into like this workflow right here. So we can see there's 2.2K leads enrolled. So we can actually go to the report and we can start seeing what these response rates are. So you can see here they had this workflow, which was an outbound workflow to Facebook group leads. It had a 38% response rate on the first text message. And then on the second text message, 43% of people responded. That is an incredible response rate, right? Super, super good example. But a lot of times you're going to go in here and you're going to see on the first 2 messages, you maybe have a 5% response rate. And that should be an alarm bell. It should, put up the red flag right there. Hey, this is an issue, because ultimately the amount of fall off and drop off in the first 48 hours of a lead, you can almost consider a lead cold again after the first 48 hours. So we need to make sure we're optimized and we're actually getting a hold of them. So just simply changing what kind of questions you're asking and what that sales copy is in those initial outbound text messages will completely change your funnel. And again, we're looking for like 5 and 10% changes throughout this entire system so that we can go collect more money. Now, this one is a much more long-term sustainable solution compared to the other ones. The other ones, we can, one, make sure it never happens again. And then 2, make sure we have a system in place. And then 3, we can go collect cash today. Okay, we can literally call those leads and make cash today. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you can go audit to make some more money inside of your CRM today. If you don't have a system that you can easily go check these things, then you need to figure out why that is not possible. And if you're on something other than like Close or HubSpot, I would recommend switching. If you need advice on how to get a better view of what is happening, or you want us to audit one of your accounts, do a deeper dive with you guys, I'm happy to take a look. Just schedule a call, talk with someone on my team. But let's go ahead, go audit that account, take a look in there, hold your reps accountable, and go find the money that's already sitting in your CRM. Half the time you don't need to create more leads or spend more money on ad spend. All the money is just sitting right there inside of your system.